Maybe you don't know.
This time, this time, this time, this time, this time to build, this time to build, this time to build, this time, this time to build, this time to build, this time to build, this time, power, this time to build, power, this time to build, power, this time to build, power.
What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Chris Hampton. Welcome to episode 113 of the Power Company Podcast, brought to you by PowerCompanyClimbing.com. Today is the final part 5, in a series with guest host Dru Mack, where Nate, Drew, and I sit down and discuss the top 5 Redpoint Pitfalls. And just one more time, I want to give a big shout out to Dru Mack and a thank you for, number one, for sitting down and having this conversation with us. So much fun. You're going to be hearing more of Drew on the podcast whenever we can make that happen. And for number 2, sending his hardest mid-range moderate recently. Good job, Drew. Yeah, well, I think you should have just done that a little sooner, because it leads us in really nicely to number 1, which is that a lot of people are projecting in the wrong range. Mm-hmm. They're either way too on the easy side of the spectrum, where they're trying things they can send really quickly, or they're trying things that are way, way, way over their head, and they're dug in deep at the dark side for years and years and years, something to that effect. Years. It could be any route, frankly. Yeah, there's people at every damn crag doing that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, that it depends a lot
been there.
On the time that you have, whether you're, sometimes you get in over your head. Sometimes the route's too hard. And sometimes the route's, you're going to do it really quick. And so finding, that middle range.
Yeah. Something that's
mid-grade.
Are there ways to know? Like, are there ways to understand where the sweet spot is for you? And we're talking about projecting here. We're not talking about second go sends or, third attempts or whatever. We're looking at something that takes, I don't know, how do you define a project, you two? Is there a sweet zone for a project? I've definitely gone over the limit, and I've gone under the limit.
Yeah.
This is a funny topic because people get really heated over this.
Oh, yeah.
Because the project lovers, I've heard people say...
I'm okay with other people being wrong.
I just made fun of Eric Horst about this, so, I think you have to find what you're comfortable with. Some people are more comfortable spending a lot of days and a lot of tries on one route, and some people are comfortable with...
I think I'd agree that you find what you're comfortable with, and then you go the other direction.
Staying in the comfort zone.
Of course. Yeah. Well, I think you want to push the boundaries of that comfort. Be uncomfortable. Try harder than what you think what is possible for you. But also, it can be really, really, you can burn out easily if you are really just beating your head against one thing. Mm-hmm. And so, I think for me, it was easy to kind of progressively have longer and longer projects. I did something maybe in a couple of days, and then the next one that I chose maybe was a little bit more time, and then a little more time. And
was
then
it a little bit harder each time?
Just stuck. Yeah,
so basically
exactly.
You've stayed exactly the same. You've just climbed harder grades.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think what I see most commonly is that people pick things that are too easy for them.
Yeah.
For just, if I'm making a blanket statement.
Depends on the area you're in.
It definitely depends on the area. For sure. Like in rifle, exact opposite.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, so for instance, I'll throw out Colorado because I work with a lot of people there, and, they can just go day cragging anywhere. Like, they have just a ton of different areas they can climb at. So they go to a new place every single day. They just spend a single day trying something and then move on. And that's, obviously that is that's way too low of a range. Like, you're not going to get a ton of benefit. Like, you will to a degree, But after a certain point, it's like you can just keep doing the same thing forever, and like you're not going to get any better from it.
Yeah, and I see that kind of with some more beginner climbers that I've worked with who, haven't spent that much time on a route. They pick something that, we kind of want instant gratification. We want that kind of that feel good of clipping chains, and kind of that gets back into that comfort zone of like, this one's going to take me a little longer. Is quite good. And grades are a great, indicator of that. Picking a harder grade can ultimately make you spend more time on a route.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that you said something really important, Drew, early on, that I initially sort of disagreed with, and then we sort of came to an agreement that the comfort level of the range that you're climbing in should be a gauge for this. Yeah. If you're really good at doing the second day or the second tri-send or the third tri-send, then dig into something a little longer. If you're really good at 3-year projects, try to find something a little shorter and see how you do on it. If you can turn, if you're 3-year projecting 12D and you can turn a 12B also into a 3-year project, then there's a problem there, and that's something that you should discover, something that you should explore.
Because you don't have that many years.
And along with that,
I got all the years,
the
Nate.
comfort is also, being within a certain style as well. Is something that, like if you're just comfortable with steep jugs.
Yeah, style has a range as well.
Style has a range as well.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason Smith Rock is empty.
There's a reason I haven't been there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's it's not necessarily because it's not good or not important, because I actually think it is important. I mean, it was to reference back to your podcast that we did earlier, Drew, that was on your list that J-Star gave you. I do think it's important to learn those styles. It's just not the popular thing. It's not easy to climb there.
Yeah, and that kind of comes into where, my list of other like 510s, 511s, 512s, and 513s that we did, of important routes to do in the red. And those aren't just routes that everybody's done and they're the most classic, but they may be the ones that help you improve as a rock climber the most.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's important. Like, I mean, I think, and that's when we talk about range, like it's worth going beyond just, okay, I've climbed 14A, I need to find a 14B or something like that. It's like, man, there are 13Bs that are still really hard. Like, it's like, okay, this is like a 1-move climb on monos. Like, that's going to be very difficult, even though like this, as far as numerically, is not like something that's very challenging for me. Like, it's something that I still need to do. So that's
I thought she was about to pass out those vines to everybody, but really she just has a handful of 8 of them she's going to eat by herself. She gave 2 to Johnny and 1 to Drew, and then walked away with the rest.
That did happen.
cold.
Yeah, I think a lot of times it's important to gain other perspectives, and that can also be within, maybe switching the discipline even of your project. That can like teach you something else, whether it's doing more boulders or maybe trying to trad climb or
slabs and beatable.
Slabs.
No.
Yeah. No. Never again.
So, Chris, you talked on a good point. Like, how do you find a good range?
I think that's really important to know. I think that you have to check your own comfort level. I think that's really what it comes down to. If you're like, this is my jam, then you need to move out of that range. Just a little bit. I wouldn't take it too far. If you're only comfortable in the 3 or 4 attempt zone, I wouldn't immediately jump into a 2-year project.
Woof.
And this is something I see in the gym a lot, is people who just go and do the same kind of style and the same kind of grade all the time.
Yep.
And it's so easy to get out of that mode in the gym because there's so much to do.
Yeah.
Of all grade ranges and styles. It's, if you're uncomfortable with steep caves, don't just spend the whole day in a steep cave. Maybe just try once, and then the next time try twice.
Yeah.
And you can build with changing your perspective. It doesn't have to be something that happens all at once.
Yeah, totally. And I think you have to take that to the outdoors just the same.
Of course.
And across all of those lines, these parameters, it has to be done that way with grade. It has to be done that way with style. It has to be done that way with discipline. I think all of these things you have to just slowly push that comfort bubble a little bigger and a little bigger until you're comfortable in all the zones of projecting, from on-siting to, multi-year mega proj.
No.
Nate's just pushing against it. He doesn't want it.
I don't like multi-year mega projects. But I think it's
You have not reached your limit. I will be there.
I don't.
You're capable of a lot more than you've done.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
You're fired.
You can't just keep saying that to everyone.
That's my new
Just
thing.
because Lana's here.
I'm just firing everyone now.
I've never been fired.
You're fired.
I've never worked though.
So is there a time when it's important to stay in one range? Like, are there any situations where it's just, you'd be like, hey, like, don't branch out?
I think you can. I think it's important to solidify your base. I think it's important, especially in plateaus. People want to beat their head on something, but I think at that point, maybe it is better to do more of easier and less of more, kind of whatever that saying is, kind of thing. Words.
You just really confused me, Drew.
Yeah, that was
At first, I was going to be like, wow, you're really smart. And now I don't know what the hell you just said.
Quick, let's take the credit. So what I think he was saying was, yeah, no, I totally agree.
I mean, is sometimes if you're trying to break into 12A, maybe it's best that you do more 11Bs and Cs. And if you're really, whether struggling mentally with a project or, whatever the case may be.
I think if you see yourself hitting that wall that we talked about earlier, where your links are expiring or whatever it might be, that your performance is sliding downward, then it's time to go back to the areas that you feel like you've already solidified and just do more of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. So is that what you would recommend? Let's say there's someone who feels like they've just been like plateaued at, mid 513. They can do it after a handful of days, but if they try anything harder, it seems heinous for them. And they feel like they've been stuck there for years. So
we switch that to a 511.
Sure.
Yeah, let's switch to 511. So someone tries 511, takes them a handful of days. They've been stuck at that situation for years.
Yeah.
I would first want to know what it is about trying the harder routes that stops them. Mm-hmm. I would want to dig into that process. Mm-hmm. Are they just turning back? Did they just get frustrated and quit? Are they digging into the tactics of it? Are they changing tactics? Are they trying different things, or are they just banging their head against the wall over and over and over? Like, where's the breakdown that's not allowing that progression to happen? That's what I'd try to figure out first.
I think more times than not, I see that with being comfortable in one range, and then you get stuck in that range.
That's a good point, Drew.
Yeah,
and I think that especially if it's like, let's take the red, for example, because we're all so familiar with the red. More than that, I'm just really familiar with the red, and you guys are going to have to deal with that.
Just playing the hits.
Yeah. I'm just not as familiar with every other place. But let's say someone's really good at, overhanging, juggy climbing, but their ultimate project is to do
Rochambeau.
Hakuna Matata.
Switch those up real quick.
Polar opposites.
Go ahead.
Swing and a miss.
Say they really want to do Hakuna Matata,
Jinx not.
but they came up in the red climbing overhanging juggy climbs.
Yep.
They might be able to do every overhanging 11D in the red,
Yep.
but
A techie
Hakuna
12A.
Matata is going to feel impossible to them.
Yeah.
So staying in the same grade range but switching styles becomes really important at that point, and you need to drop the grade a little bit over your project level, maybe down to 11B, 11C, learn to climb that vertical stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Before you get back to Hakuna Matata.
Yeah.
I was just having this discussion with someone I work with the other day, in that they have a very great pyramid of identical rock climbs.
Right.
More or less. Like, they're like, oh, I've done a bunch of 12A, bunch of 12B, decent number of C, and a couple Ds. But if you look, it's like they're all at the Red River Gorge, all almost the exact same style. And like in the red, for anyone who hasn't been
Are you
there.
talking about my pyramid?
Yeah. Yes. No, you've actually done a great job of climbing bouldery things more recently.
I'm trying.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, if you're fit enough to do an endurance 13A in the red, you can probably do 60% of the 13As fairly quickly in the red because they're all fitness based. So even if you build a wide pyramid, you can have a wide grade pyramid, but have a very narrow
Style pyramid.
style pyramid. Thank you, Drew.
Yeah, got you.
So I think that's something worth keeping in mind is like, you can just look at your 8A scorecard because we all have them, and be like, oh man, I've got a bitchin' pyramid. It's super wide. But if you actually look, it's like, oh, actually these are all just like crimp faces, and I don't have I'm not actually that good at like steep overhangs, or like all of these are like super short bouldery routes or monstrous endurance routes that I can just drop knee bar my way through. So I think the style specificity is really important to keep in mind.
Totally. You need a job, Drew? I'm just going to fire Nate and you can have a job because you said that really succinctly and then Nate just drew it out forever and ever.
I'm sorry, were you talking? I was just waiting for my next turn to speak.
All right. I think that's a good place to any. A place as any. Wow, that was really hard to say. That's a good a place as any to wrap things up. We've been going for like an hour and a half at this point.
So do we want to relist just the top 5 real quick?
We should definitely talk about what those are. Yep.
Okay.
Let's just list them out. Go for it.
So number 5, trying to send too early or too late. Number 4, being closed-minded with bad beta. Number 3, not working the correct links or not working to do good links. Number 2 is spending too much time on a project or spending too much time projecting. And lastly is working in the wrong range, whether this is grade or by style.
Yep. So you said that really nicely. You're hired again. Yes. Drew, sorry.
Peace.
All right. Drew, where can people find you online?
You can follow me on Instagram, Dru Mack 5. DRUMACK 5.
And are you on the Facebooks too?
Yeah, you can go see me there. I got a new website coming. Lots of new things.
What's your website going to be? Do you know?
We'll wait.
Okay. We don't quite know what it is yet, so don't just go straight to drumack.com. That could be a porn
That's
site.
a truck website. I've looked.
It's a truck website. So don't go to drumack.com because that's a truck
Unless
website.
you need to rent a truck.
Yeah, if you're
Not
interested
Mack
in
trucks,
trucks,
but yeah,
go do it. But
That's funny that they're not Mack trucks.
yeah, I don't know. It's a weird
yeah,
thing.
but you can definitely find us as well on the Instagrams and on the Facebooks and on the Pinterest website, whatever happens over there, at Power Company Climbing. You can find us at powercompanyclimbing.com, including all of our training programs, ebooks, proven plans, custom plans, and this podcast.
And on the Patreon.
You should be sharing this podcast with all of your friends and checking out the Patreon. I think we're up to like 30 some episodes over there as well.
Nice.
So check that out. You can shout about us all day long on the Twitter if you would like to, but you will not find us on the Twitters because we don't tweet. We scream like eagles.
This time It's time to build.